Hey guys, me again, Orcs there. What if where I last left off? Let's see. Checking. Back to the Bell. What if when Bell and where I last left off, Shax and Bell just defended against an assault against like a section or whatever you would like to call it of the Fallen House of Devils. That being a very tough victory to come across. Bell and, Shax having to fight pretty much tooth and nail by themselves to defeat it. Well, they left the militiamen, you could call them, inside and such, as like a last line of defense, because no matter how hard the Fallen pushed, if they were able to manage to get through, they wouldn't be able to take out like 40 to 30 people using a bunch of guns. People who have been somewhat trained with guns nonetheless. So I don't think Fallen trained themselves how to use a gun. I think it's more or less just trial and error. You live, and they pretty much trial by fire is how I would put it. But anyways, we keep going where Bell is leaving, so that way he can go request supplies from the rest of the warlords and all those people inside his territory. At that same time, this is where the Iron Lords show up at, Shax's place after they sent him a message and he refused, if I remember. Trying to remember how exactly it goes. It's that, he sends them a message because they keep on trying to get him to join them, but he keeps on refusing. So he eventually invites them over, I believe, using his ghost as the messenger. As he's like, unfortunately, unfortunately, stop it, Samson. Sorry, Samson keeps on trying to leave. Unfortunately, come through the wall. The front door is undergoing weatherproofing, I believe is how they have it. So instead of just, normal things when the Iron Lords appear, there's there's armed guards and such overlooking the area. As they inform Shax says, "Let them in." Sorry, I just woke up a little bit ago. Shax has his militiamen and such bring them all in, as Gramps is considered the captain, you could call it, or so, because from what Shax can tell, he's probably the best fighter out of all of them. So he puts him in charge. As Gramps is like, you're the Iron Lords? Oh well. Can't get much worse with you guys here, I guess. Especially with Bell away at the moment. As they say, Bell. It's like, it doesn't matter to you. Unless Shax wants you to know, he'll tell you. If he doesn't, oh well. Get over it. As he leads them to him, here's Shax, here they are. He's like, good, any sign of Bell yet? He's like, no, sir. It's like, oh well. As then they proceed to have a fight where it's Fellwinter, I believe it's Fellwinter, Ephraim, and Saladin there trying to convince Shax to join them, so to get better protection and such. As he counteracts with the argument that, as he would put it, the people under my protection have been displaced due to warlords and Iron Lords alike. And if Bell was there, he'd be agreeing with it, but he isn't. He's out there fighting, trying to get more supplies for Shax. The warlords are happily giving them away, understanding that it's unofficial, but Deku has become Shax's personal messenger, or it'd probably be rude, but he's pretty much his errand boy, you could call it. As people around view Shax as the lord of, his area, So they would call Bell, I believe the word is a retainer or something like that, where they serve, you could call it. As Bell understands this, and it's fine by him. Yeah. As Lily and Bell are traveling back one day, he arrives to find that as he gets in there, he sees Shax fighting another man. As he's like, winter has set in. Gotta get all these supplies back. He's like, thank God we're here. As when they arrive, people are like, halt! Who goes there? It's Bell. It's like, oh, Bell, thank goodness you're here. Ugh. Shax has been fighting that Iron Lord for days. Every day it's the same thing. We get a bit of show out of it. It was a bit fun in the beginning, but now it's just predictable. People come over, watch their fight, then they leave. It really ain't anything special anymore. He's like, so did you guys get us any supplies? He's like, they spared what they could. They had their own winter to deal with. I wouldn't have their people suffer just for us to ease ours. Like, Shax may not like that. He's like, Shax would probably understand. Yeah, warlords around this area have been doing well so far. They're less violent and less brutal towards their people. They're no longer tyrants, as you would call it. Like, well, yeah. Now they got you to fear. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Get in here. As with some of the men that were sent with them to gather supplies, they all move in and roll. They all get the supplies indoors and such into what you'd call storage rooms. As well as like the door's been weatherproof. It's like Shax finished it ages ago. Yeah, he's been mainly focusing on fighting with that Iron Lord, Fellwinter something. His ghost is called Fellspring. It's funny. Yeah. As Bell's like, well, let's go take a look, Lily. As they get up high, Bell's like, he's good, I would say, but there's no way he can beat Shax. I barely land hits on him sometimes. But then again, it hasn't been that long, so... As Bell's watching this, as Shax actually kills Fellwinter another time, as then he starts to walk away, as his ghost revives him. As Shax looks up and says, "Good to see you, Bell. Have you brought all the supplies you could?" He's like, "Yep. Not many could offer everything that you needed, but we got most of it. Maybe a bit short on food, but I don't need to eat. If I keel over from lack of starvation, Ghost can just bring me back. Ain't that right, Lily?" She's like, "Yep, but I don't think you want that, do you?" He's like, "Nope. So, what's the situation here?" Everything's good. And this is Fellwinter. He's trying to convince me to join the Iron Lords. As Bell lets out like a little chuckle. He's like, well, that would make sense. You are one of the toughest guardians here. In the sector, even, I would dare say. He's like, well, I've been traveling for a while. I'm gonna go catch some shut-eye. I was just like, alright, Bell. Take it easy and, good job with requisitioning the supplies. As Fell is looking at Deku as he jumps down, Bell holsters his weapon, which he had out. As he just walks back into the thing, he's like, too long have I been wandering? As he rubs his eyes, Airy and Seer, I believe it was, not Airy. Shoot, it's been so long, I forgot it. It's Ween. I remembered. It was Ween and Seer, I believe. Yep, I remember I was looking and I thought of the two characters that I thought would make most sense, and it was Ween and Seer. Sorry if I'm mistaken, though. Like I said, it has been a little while since I watched this series, or even thought about posting it. Sorry. But, I digress. As Ween and Seer come running up to Bell, happy that he's back, he's like, "Hey guys, I can't play right now. I need to go rest." Alright, Bell. He's like, "I'll play with you guys in a little bit. Lily, want play with them, entertain them, something." "You don't need sleep." "I do." She's like, yeah, alright, Belle, go to sleep." He's like, "Thank you." She just goes to his private room and just lays back and just falls asleep instantly. At this point, Seer and Ween are having a blast playing with, well, Lily, as she entertains like the younger children with pretty lights and such. As Fellwinter's like, his ghost is out, not attended by him. Where is he? As he questions where'd the other light bearer go, he's like, "Oh, you mean Bell? He went to go sleep. He's been traveling for days on end." Hey, it's time for the next guard rotation. It's like, I need to catch some shut-eye. We've been on this for 24 hours. It ain't a good idea. As he goes up and starts questioning people about who Bell is. Say he just showed up one day, like with those three. He showed up with like those three over there. And when the warlord tried to forcefully take over our territory, he killed him. Simple as that, really. The rest of the men followed under his command naturally. It's kind of scary. We thought he was going to be another tyrant, but then he just started going back to what he was doing, which was helping in the fields and such. Glad he wasn't, though. He saved us from a fallen attack that would have wiped us out. Hell, he even stood back for a day and held off an entire, as he put it, an entire swarm of them. I'm guessing to the best counts, there are probably like maybe 50 of them. Maybe. Anyway, he's a good kid. Kid? Well, I guess since technically he's only been alive for a few, close to a year now. Puts things in perspective, doesn't it? Oh well. Let's keep doing, alright? As Fellwinter can tell, these people are quite tired. And, well, as Shax put it, my people need their rest. As Bell wakes up eventually, he's like, God. Well, time to get to work. As he gets up and goes on with his life. Eventually, the rest of the Iron Lords show up, because they gave Fellwinter a set amount of time to get Shax to come under their command, you could call it. Or to at least peacefully surrender. I don't know the correct terms. Well, I guess a good way to put it was he was annexed. I believe is the word that you use. Was annexed into the Iron Lords. Something like that. As at that foot of the mountain, Bell was standing there ready with his hand cannon. As the rest of the civilians and such were kept kept up in the fortress that was made up there, as it was reinforced and such with weapons and such. They dug a bit down to make a nice little safe house, you'd call it. The women and children were non-combatants in general. As Bell stood there, he sees the army that stands before him. They're nice and shiny, as he would put it. As the rest of the warlords around him are saying, are somewhat anxious, Bell's like, "Hey guys, don't worry about it. Look at him." He tries to make the mood more lighthearted, even though he's actually quite worried himself, thinking, I've only been alive for a year. Well, this is goodbye for now. As he says, Look at them. They're nice and shiny. They barely get into any fights. We should be just fine. As a few, that gets a chuckle out of a few of the Iron Lord, not the Iron Lords, but a few of the Warlords. As then there's one Iron Lord that actually does give a little laugh. Ha! Just means we don't get a, doesn't, that just means we have more time to reap the spoils. As he's like, well, let's see who wins this one. As Bell has the hand cannon right at his side, he's like, 3, 2, 1. As he's about to lift it up, it's like, stop. As Bell's like, oh, thank God. Or thank the traveler. Whoever is out there, thank you. As he's like, that's enough. You can all disband. As Bell's like, oh, thank God. So he puts away his hand cannon, and he's like, alright then, we don't have to murder each other. This is good news to me. It's like, yes it is, Bell. Now, go on. I shall deal with this situation. Let everyone know on top of the mountain everything is calmed down now. He's like, good. Don't need more headaches. As Bell and them are taking a breather, since, you know, they didn't have to murder each other. Bell is celebrating somewhat when he gets up there. As they're like, we're staying alive, staying alive. As he's thankful, because he knew that if the Iron Lords and the Warlords really did have to fight one another, well, the little militia they trained wouldn't have stayed up on the top of the mountain. No matter what, Bell would have tried. He's thankful, though, that Shax was able to stop that. Bell talking with Gramps saying, here's your hand cannon back, as Gramps is like, you know what, just keep it. As Bell takes this chance to go check on the rest of the people there, as all the Iron Lords actually come up to actually see the so-called palace, you could call it, or the like little fortress where they're all staying at. As they walk in, they see the fortifications that were made by the militia, as they call themselves. As they call them they call themselves the, well, can't really think of a name, so they just call themselves the militia. Ow, getting a cramp in my leg. As we go over to Bell and them, as Bell's talking with some of the Iron Lords, as they actually are curious about him, hearing that Bell is what everyone else considers in the territory Shax's personal, whatever you would call him, like retainer or whatever. He deals with the stuff Shax is too busy to deal with, and that's quite a lot of stuff. Shax is a very, very busy person. So Bell is known for being his main enforcer, you could call it. As then he's approached by some of the other Iron Lords, like Ephrodite, Saladin, and even Fellwinter at one point. As they were asking him would he join the Iron Lords, he says no. That the people were displaced and harmed by Iron Lords. He won't allow that to happen, so he won't join the ranks. He'll monitor them. Stop it. Samson's trying to pet me. Again. So, as Bell's talking with them, eventually we cut 5 years in the future. Ween and Seer are growing up pretty quickly, as Gramps is doing very well for his age. As Bell was discussing things with Shax, as he's training more of his militia, this is what happens, as he's approached by some of the people there. As they question, as the militia doesn't really fall under any one person's rule. Whoever Bell tells them that they're fighting for, that's who they fight for. As some of the consensus of the city has become somewhat suspicious of this, saying that it's typically that it's held by the Vanguard or someone of higher ranking status than Bell, as they put him at a lower tier than some Guardians. As Bell actually argues against this, stating that what he is a Guardian. He won't just be the shield. He won't just protect these people. He'll train them to protect themselves. Otherwise, we're just going to be babysitters. And eventually, the babysitter has to leave one day. As several of them disagree with this and somewhat speak out against what he says, other guardians actually agree with him somewhat. As he's sitting down at like a bar one day, as he's just thinking, he's like, so he's getting like a nice bit of food, like all served up to him, as they call it the hostess of fertility, I believe is what it's called. As they're talking and such, stop it. Bad. Stop it. No, it's not playtime. I'm sorry. But as he's sitting there, he gets served food as he's like, thank you. As eventually, like one or two, like a huntress or a hunter walks in as she approaches him. She sits down next to him and she's like, are you Belle? He's like, yep. Who are you? I'm Ryu. It's a pleasure to meet you. She sticks out her hand as he shakes it. He's like, what can I do for you? He's like, she says that she was actually interested in his idea that he was talking about, such as preparing a militia that doesn't really obey any of the factions within the city, as they all follow Belle, as they would put it. She asked him his questions about personal things like, why do you think this is a necessity? As he talks about it as this. We got frames and other things that are gonna be fighting. We got a few human guards inside the city, but we don't really have an actual human military force, you could call it. I think it would be a good idea to get those people. I think it would be a good idea to have them prepared, just in case one day Guardians can't be there to save them. Plus, it would be good for them to not depend on us, as I stated before. It's a dumb idea, personally. But now I'm going to try my best to get to see through. And she's like, if you need any other Guardians, why don't you contact me? And she slides her information as she says, oh, and as this is my ghost, Astrea, I believe is that Ryu was part of a familia. The familia's name was the Astray Familia. Like the god of something or other. I don't know exactly what the god of she is, but pretty much Astrea had a very strong sense of right and wrong, and wasn't willing to abandon people quite often. Sorry, excuse me. As they're just sitting there actually talking about ideas, they start actually making plans, Ryu and Deku, as Ryu has seen personally, as she states that she knows what happens when you don't train people to fight. When the Guardians try to put everything on themselves, it ends badly. She, as Belle says, personal experience, she's like, yep. Wasn't good at all. As Belle says, I understand. As he like sort of pats her on the shoulder. Well, Ryu, here's to the formation of the FOTC. As that's what Belle has decided to call themselves, the Forces of the City. As he doesn't just want this to be an actual thing, he wants to be a cohesive military, you could call it. So, this isn't, like, I don't believe it ever told you exactly how the FOTC comes about, but I'll say this is what happens, is that Belle and them sort of found the FOTC. Because he believes, as the Guardians have put it, that the Guardians and the Vanguard are all different from the city, as some of them try to put it, is that they're the guardians of it. They don't actually are part of it. So Belle founds it by calling his forces, instead of Belle's militia, or the militia, the FOTC. As they're trying to figure out, how do we we need more weapons. Like, we got enough for everybody, but there are still more people joining every day. We could use a bit more, as they're like, why don't we just request the gunsmiths? He's like, oh, well, a lot of the gunsmiths don't really want to sell to me. Let's just say, well, they know what I'm trying to do, and they don't want to get on the bad side of any of the major factions. As Ryu's thinking about it, she's like, you know what? I think I may know a guy. As he's like, really? She's like, yep. Let's go check him out. As they both go on over to this very broken down workshop, as they hear a guy going, come on, fire, damn it. As he's trying to get to work, as he smashes it against the table, he's like, dang it. I've been messing with this thing for almost an entire day, and it won't unjam. As it's like, you okay? He's like, as she knocks on the door, excuse me, well, he's like, what do you want, Ryu? It's a bit busy. As he's struggling with the gun, she's like, I got a potential customer. As he's like, oh, really? Who's it? As he looks up and sees, oh, you're a Bell. As he, like, sort of comes over his work table and such, he's like, I'm Welf Grozo. And welcome to my shop. He's like, yes, I can see it. It's very nice. Very unorganized, but nice. As he's like, yeah, sorry. Messing with this gun for a while. As Bell's like, can I see it? He's like, sure, but it's gonna take you a little. As Bell just sort of smacks it, as in the bullet casing that was stuck just flies out. As Bell's speaking more with Wells like, oh yeah, this actually sounds really great. Slight problem though. I have nowhere near enough supplies as the ones you're requesting. It's like, well, what will you need? Bullets and all that probably would be a waste. We'd probably be better to try energy weapons and such, you know? He's like, fusion rifles, fusion auto rifles, even, like, stuff like that. He's like, see what you mean. So, do you got any recommendation where we can find this stuff? Well, there is a thing you could do, as it's like, what? He's like, fallen weaponry and such, right? It's like, I have a bit of a understanding of them, as you know. It's like, yeah. It's like, well, over here, as he shows that he's been able to somewhat redesign, you could call it, some of the fallen weaponry, as he's able to get it into more human-like weaponry. As he's like, I got it, I understand weapons, ammunition, at least for the small arms. Anything bigger, like some of those Scorch cannons, as it's known as, or even a, what was it? Walkers and such, yeah, those things are almost impossible to replicate. Actually, not almost, they are impossible to replicate. Felt an actual thing to study. It's like, I see. So, just grab fallen weaponry and just bring it here. He's like, yep. As they're like, well, Ryu, it seems we may have our work cut out for us. She's like, why don't we bring some of the militia along? They've been looking, we need some of them to see actual action. He's like, we could try to find actual targets first. Let's not just start stumbling out in the wild. Let's find a target, then hit them hard. It makes sense, wouldn't it? She's like, I guess you're right. Alright, let's go. As Wolf says, hang on, as he walks over and grabs his guns and such, he's like, I want to come too. It's been a while since I've actually been out there, and outside the walls, He's like, alright, but we're not giving you command of any people, alright? My leg's sort of cramping up, so stop cramping. Belle talks with Welf a bit more as Ryu's moving ahead of them. As she actually gets there to their headquarters, you could call it, as she starts speaking with some of them, saying, sorry for the yawn. That Belle has an announcement to make. As he walks in, they're like, what's the announcement, boss? As they're like, alright, we're gonna do a little bit of a errand or grocery shop, a list run, alright? Welf, as it's like, hello, I am Welf. I am a weapon master, gun maker, and I'm gonna forge you guys some guns. So that way all you can be armed with nice, shiny tech. Ah, God. My leg is cramping. I believe. Sorry. My leg is still kind of cramping. Ah, fuck. Anyways. As Wolf continues to explain what they need, and some of the troops are actually getting kind of excited for the prospect of seeing some actual action. But Bell states that they're gonna be looking for some targets to attack. Nice, easy targets. Nothing too crazy, since a lot of the troops there are green, as they're not happy about that, but they're still excited for the idea of fighting, getting to see action. As Bell and Ryu and all of them set out about finding one, as Welf checks with some of his old arms buddy, like arm weapon makers and such. As then Bell actually speaks with Shax, as Shax has some area of expertise when it comes, well, not expertise, but some pull in finding missions. As Ryu checks with the Vanguard, seeing what they can find, as they find a wide variety of targets. As they see some for taking out a couple, like a Baron here, or maybe even or even the possibility of taking out a small crew that's running amok. They start getting to work as they send out their troops who do precision strikes, like a scalpel you could call it, as they go in, hit them hard, hit them fast, then get out with what they need. As Bell knows, this is probably the best strategy until they can get, something other than just guys running around in protective gear with a few guns that don't have a lot of ammo. As we cut to Bell and them slowly approaching a position where they've recently found out that there's some Fallen that going to be moving a large shipment of weapons and other things through there, since they want to be more quiet about this, because at this point the Fallen are still trying to find their footholds on Earth, so there's still skirmishes and actual battles fought between them. As Bell and them are walking, they say, "What house is it? House of Devils? Maybe?" Coloring are weird. Anyways. There it is. A large shipment of weapons? You know what I'm saying? As they zoom in closer, it's like, those aren't weapons, those are civilians and such. Or wounded soldiers, as they would call them. It's like, what do we do now, boss? He's like, well, they're not really for us to worry about. Let's pull back. And plus, their amount of forces they have there are actually quite serious. So, like, maybe it's actual, like, civilians, or what you could classify them as. It's like, yeah, they're not worth our time. As then Bell and them start pulling back, a vandal took notice of them and reported it to the captain, but was very quiet about it. As they state that the humans have pulled back. As the captain is curious about this, but decides to leave it be, as he orders everyone to double time it to get out of there. As Bell and them then hear about another place that they're going to, as Bell's like, "Oh, it's either this or nothing, so might as well do something." As they take up as they go on, actually coming across a house of kings. Like, now this is what I'm talking about. Everyone fan out a little bit and hold your fire until I give the order. So you follow them, as this is where a baron is lurking around. So he gives out the orders, as this is an attack party
ready to gearing up for something. As Belle wants them to wait a minute, as then they see that's a town that they're gonna attack that's full of people. As Belle says, alright, attack, attack, attack. As in an instant, there's shots that just ring out where vandals and dregs alike are just dropping like flies. As that Baron then takes cover, ordering the rest to do the same. As Belle and them let out a war cry, you could call it, they make their way forward as they keep a steady rain of fire upon them and throw grenades that destroy dishevel other positions. As the Baron is trying to figure out what to do, Ryu moves in close as she takes him out quickly, as the rest of the Fallen are just slaughtered. As they go into the cave, they find weapons, ammo, everything that they could need. As Wolf actually states to them that this should be enough to get us should be enough to outfit at least a few hundred troops. It's like, good, finally. It's like, alright. We'll round everything up, then go on back. It's like, alright, sir. As everyone agrees with this, Welf and Ryu speak with Deku, stating that, or asking, so what are you gonna do now? He's like, we're gonna continue to run operations, and we'll just continue to do what we've done today. You guys did pretty good today. If you guys want to come back, it actually would be appreciated. As Ryu says, she doesn't really have anything to do, especially since some of the Vanguard has figured out that she's helping Belle. And Wolf says, and I just end up getting stuck in the shop most of the day. So I should be able to get all these weapons knocked out within like a week or so. Or actually, I could possibly get a weapon done every hour, maybe every 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how complex and how damaged it is. Otherwise, we should be good on outfitting your troops pretty well, Belle. It's like, good. Especially if I have more. So, is that all? It's like, yeah, that's all I can think of. It's like, good. We'll get back to this. As Belle gives him a nod as he returns to the problem at hand, Ryu and Welf sort of shake hands, saying, "It was nice to see you again, Ryu. How's the gun treating you?" "It's treating me well, Welf. I haven't had any problems with it at all." It's like, that's good. That's good. Well, I gotta get to it. See you later. It's like, see you later too, my friend. As that's how it goes. Anyways, that seems like a nice place to end it off at. I hope you guys enjoy this. Hope you guys continue to enjoy this. Hope you guys have a nice day, nice night, nice life.